I wanted to do one more video before I left today. Just talking about, there was a person who commented that the doctrine of OSAS is a heresy, or is a terrible heresy or something. OSAS, once saved, always saved. And I wanted to talk about it a little bit because I wanted to respond to him, but I chose not to. But now I am. So, what I wanted to say was, I don't want my salvation to be an excuse to be lazy, right? You know, like, well, I'm saved now, so looks like I'm safe. I'm safe. I'm saved. I'm in Christ. So now I just lay on the couch and wait for Christ to come. And then not care about all the people dying outside, you know, or dying at my work, or in this, or in my family, you know. It breaks my heart. My friends. I've been thinking lately that I should have been a lawyer, because I'm just constantly thinking about arguments, you know. And that's kind of what a lawyer does, comes up with effective arguments. It's just constantly in my brain. I'm coming up with these arguments about how would I respond to this person, you know. It just makes you go crazy. But anyway, I don't want my salvation to make me lazy, and that's the one side. But then at the other half of the discussion is, if my salvation is always in question, okay, how much is enough? How much works make me worthy to be saved? And really, and that goes into Mormonism, or Jehovah's Witnesses, always pushing people, hey, you got to work for the kingdom. You got to work. You got to do this. You got to go. Blah, blah, blah. You're not doing enough. You're not doing enough, Alice, or Alex, or whoever, you know, or Joe. You're not doing enough. So, hey, get your butt over here, you know. And then they get burned out, and they end up, I don't even want to, you know. So I don't want my salvation to make me lazy, and I don't want it to make me miserable and make me want to, you know. That should be a natural outpouring of it. I should want to do. After I am saved, I should then have a desire to want to do, like me making these videos. I want to do this. I want someone to read their Bible and realize how powerful it is, and to be saved. I don't feel at all obligated to do this, what I'm doing right now. This is just naturally, I have to read this Bible. My brother bought me this Bible, and I'm going to read it anyway, but I thought, hey, why not read it into a camera, you know? And then that's it. It's like nothing. It's not, this is not work to me. But it should naturally, why not, you know? Now, another point is, what if I sin, you know? What if I make a mistake? Like the example I was using in my brain was, beautiful lady comes into my work. I've used this example before. She's scantily clothed and very attractive. And she comes at me and Think of the scene with Joseph, right? Come lay with me. And that's what she says to me at the end of my shift. Now let's say I make a mistake and I go lay with her. And she's married. And her husband smashes my head with a hammer. That's exactly what I deserved for doing that, for making that mistake. Or, and that's, now, am I in hell right now because I committed adultery? Or am I in heaven just because I made a mistake? You know, she comes in, she's hardly wearing anything. Come on, you know. And then I'm tired and weak. And in that moment, my flesh looks at her and lets go, you know, and I make that mistake. Am I in hell after my head gets smashed by a hammer from the husband? Am I in hell right now because of that one mistake? Even though I did accept Christ and I did trust in Him and I did believe in Him. Well, if you really did believe in Him, you wouldn't have been tempted by that girl, would you? Would you? I don't know. Maybe I would have. Oh, wretched man that I am! You know? Maybe I get tired. It's pretty tiring unloading the truck and then dealing with 50 million people every day, yelling at you and spitting in your face. It wears you out. And then this beautiful woman comes in and I get tempted. Maybe I made a mistake, you know? But once saved, always saved. If that's a heresy, then I would go to hell. But then, what about that person making that statement that it's a heresy, you know? Does that person live the perfect life? They never sin? That's a joke. Solomon, as we read just a little bit ago, Solomon even admits who doesn't sin, who doesn't make a mistake. That's why we needed, that's why they needed that sacrifice system. And then, of course, even then, that failed them. And there's a recognition that we need a Savior. Now, that example of the beautiful woman, you should always use the Joseph defense. You know what the Joseph defense is? Run the hell away from the woman. You know, that's typically what I do. So don't think that, you know, usually looks too good to be true. It usually is, you know, too attractive. She's probably a succubus, demon, vampire. You know, you're going to regret that decision, you know. I don't care how good she looks. It's too good to be true. Just run out of there, Joseph. So anyway, if my salvation is always in question, then I'm never good enough and I'm never saved. And I always make a mistake. And I'm doomed, really. So I know where he's coming from in the argument because I say, you know, I agree with him. I don't want to be lazy. I want to do something for the kingdom. But on the other hand, I don't want to get burned out. I don't want to kill myself. When does he necessarily want me to do all that? You know? And am I ever good enough? You know? That's the problem with my one coworker. He's always trying to push the work salvation. And that's just not, we're never justified under that. The truth is, the work is already done. And whatever pathetic work that I accomplish is irrelevant compared to what Christ has already done. It's already done. Boom, done. Do I accept it or not? And if I accept it, then I am saved. But then there's a separate standard. That's what I wanted to get into. So my salvation is secure. And I do think once saved, always saved. It is secure. My salvation is intact, because if it isn't intact, then I could go to hell for the slightest thing. What if I cuss out some guy right before I get gunned down at my job? That could happen any day now. That's what's going on. Or whatever example. I made a sin right before I got shot. Well, he's going to hell. He's going to hell then. See, there has to be some confidence in your salvation. There has to be kind of a buffer zone. So my salvation is intact because I believed at this point. Your salvation, that's that. But then your fellowship, that's a separate standard. Your fellowship with God, with Christ, with reading this Bible. Fellowship, that's the difference. Most people just stay at baby Christians. I think they're saved, but they don't move beyond that because they never open this Bible. They never fellowship with Him, and they never walk the walk. That's the difference. That's what David wanted. If you want to continue having fellowship with God, you'll forsake that sin. I will run away from the beautiful woman that's married, run away from her, because I want fellowship with God. If I go and have sex with the married woman, I'm not in fellowship with God in sin, right? So, though I get my brain smashed out by the husband, I think I am still going to be saved because I did believe before that point. I just got tired. I made a mistake. Doesn't everybody make a mistake? Didn't David make a mistake? So if David got harpooned right after he had sex with Bathsheba, is he going to hell? No. God gave him a moment there. He gave him a lot of time. He actually went further into his sin, and God still forgave all of that. Because David, at one point, he stopped and he said, I have sinned. And that brings you back. That brings you back to Him when you finally surrender to Him and say, I have sinned. I have failed God. Because you want to be with God. It's just this world and the temptations of the flesh, all these distractions. We make mistakes. I want to be in the Spirit. I would like to be perfect like you, whoever says that once saved, always saved. You must be perfect then, right? Are you Christ? Have you, do you never sin? That's the argument I'm making here. But I know where you're coming from. I don't want to be lazy, like I said. But I don't want to go to that point where it's some kind of work salvation thing. It just doesn't work because you're never good enough. Draw the line at Christ. Christ is the line. Christ is everything. If I accept what Christ has done, there should be then a result after that. After I have accepted what's done, the fellowship, I should be going into fellowship then with Him, and I should want to walk the walk and walk with Him and walk with that real heart that really is for Christ, like David. David wanted fellowship. He didn't want to be removed from God. He realized his mistake, and he accepted his punishment. That's the thing, you know? If I choose to have sex with her, I'm not in fellowship, and I am not going to be blessed. My life is about to get real bad, you know, especially with that hammer coming at me from the husband, you know? See? He takes me out immediately because I make that mistake. That's the penalty that I deserve for making that decision. I chose to sin. I'm not in fellowship. But is my salvation intact? I think so. Are you perfect? Do you live every day perfectly? Do you never make a mistake? That's the argument I'm making. And tell me, what do you think? Do you think once saved, always saved is a big heresy? Or do you think your salvation is intact, but as far as your fellowship and your blessing with him in the land, we're meant to be blessed. But when we turn away, when we sin, when we choose to sin rather than choosing to obey and walk in him, that is work to do that. To walk in fellowship with God. It takes work for me to obey him. I see that beautiful woman, I lose my mind. That takes work for me to say no and to run away from her like Joseph. That's work. So it's a different standard. That's the argument that I'm making. That's the argument that I've heard before with other pastors. I don't know. What do you think? Let's discuss it. Is once saved, always saved a heresy? Or is it something that we have to have confidence in? Because if we don't have confidence in that we're saved, then we're no better than some of the other religions out there, right? If I'm wondering always whether I'm saved or not, then I'm never good enough. The fact is, I'm not good enough. That's what you have to accept. None of us are good enough. All of us fall short. It's only Christ that's good enough. And it's only whether I accept him. It's whether I'm worthy. Please, let's discuss it further. Thank you for listening. Have a blessed day.